There have been many issues that have been presented by climate change. Although the effects of climate change are far and few between, most people living in developed areas can't understand the weight and burden that most of those in more rural and remote areas have in regard to this issue. Most of the lives that are affected are animals and their habitats. The raising of the temperature just by a few degrees may not be felt by or impact us, but those who are less adapted to changing conditions feel the burden and strain far more than we will ever come to understand. Many of these organisms have specific operating conditions that may be the temperature, or that could equally be the type of food they consume, and the effect of climate change will send ripples through the entire food chain. The world as we know it will change drastically if we do not change for the better. The consequences will be catastrophic. Some of the main questions that are presented when we think about the topic of climate change are: why is climate change a global problem, and how will we solve the issue of climate change? Although these are pertinent questions, there are others that are more often overlooked, such as which countries are more severely affected than others, and how can we as society become more empathetic to those who are severely affected by climate change? To begin with, I wanted to answer one of the larger questions: why is climate change a global threat? One of the most pressing and global issues that climate change poses is the rising of the sea levels. This is due to the fact that the Earth, by consequence of pollution and greenhouse gases, is heating up, causing the ice caps to melt. An extra 14,000 tons of water from the melting of the ice caps is added to the volume of the ocean every second. And this will continue to happen until they've all melted or we sort out the climate issues. The main repercussion of this is that with the rising sea levels, we continuously have less and less land. This land is taken away from both human inhabited environments and also the natural environments of the animals. The flip side of this is, as we humans relocate and find a new place to settle, we will be further encroaching on the remaining habitat of these animals, further reducing their habitat size and the survivability of their species. Although the threats vary from place to place, the threat caused by climate change is still there. Whether it be forest fires, severe storms, or droughts, these are all issues that severely affect the lives of millions, if not billions, of people. The 20 hottest years ever recorded have all occurred in the past 22 years, because air temperatures are significantly determined by ocean temperatures. They have warmed considerably over the past few years, and as previously mentioned, this can be detrimental to the survival of various species, as is one of the contributing factors to the wreckage of the ecosystems across the world, most notably of which the coral reefs in Australia and the oceanic ecosystem in general.
Which countries are most affected and why? Unfortunately, all the nations are affected from climate change, but there are some countries that are most affected from this issue. According to German Watch Institute's index presented in COP25 in Madrid, we can find Fiji in top, followed by many other countries like Rwanda, Canada, Japan, Germany, and more. This global threat has caused a lot of damage over the years. The most recent one is the forest fire in Australia. The common problems shared by those countries are huge economical losses that are between $93.2 million to $2,282 million. Furthermore, natural disasters are frequent in Fiji, and that is a big problem for people's life. How can society become more empathetic with those who are affected by this problem? Sadly, all societies are affected by climate change, but we can be more empathetic towards people living in countries like Fiji. To do that, we should educate ourselves to be able to take the step towards empathy and understanding the real issues in the current times.
As for the solutions proposed, we can divide them in two main groups: the efforts made at a collective level and the efforts made at an individual level. For the first group, there are two main solutions that came up to our minds. that are reducing or even replacing fossil fuel consumption by renewable, clean, or green energy, such as moving by foot, using electric cars or bikes, and mitigating the massive deforestation, which is one of the most challenging. We are cutting from 3.5 to 7 billion trees a year, and we are only planting 1.6 billion. So that's quite a big of a difference. From the efforts made at an individual level, we can reduce meat consumption and changing our diets to veganism or vegetarianism, which will also reduce the processed meat consumption, which is also a big of an issue when it comes to climate change and CO2 emissions, and consuming locally produced products and foods. The main point here is that there's a vast range of details we can care about to contribute to a healthier planet and to fight the main issue, which is global warming and climate change. As for the political leaders, they have the power to influence the masses. There are several solutions they can apply which will be better received or worse received, which are reducing subsidies in fossil fuels and applying an incrementing extra tax to it. This will be quite radical change, and it will not certainly be accepted positively, but it will actually make a big of a deal in this fight against climate change. Also, adding subsidies to renewable and clean energies and promoting the use of electric cars. Also, the essential is that they use the main communication sources such as radio, internet, or even TV to promote these solutions and raise awareness to fight this big deal that we're facing.